Far Side Movie Reviews.
Hey Farsighters, alright, so let's talk about Split, M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie, and what did I think about Split? I thought that actually Split was not bad. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. If you're not familiar with what the movie is about, it's about a guy that has 24 different personalities, the fourth personality being named the Beast, which doesn't sound very inviting. He actually ends up kidnapping 3 girls, and this movie tells a story of their escape as well as what is going on with the individual that is cycling through all of these different personalities. So the acting in this film is phenomenal. I mean, the way that James McAvoy portrays these different personalities is really amazing. I mean, he goes from a little kid to a female. It's really something to see. By the way, that's not a spoiler because it was in the commercial. So he does a really good job in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of the girls that's abducted in this movie, and she does a really good job. She was in Morgan, which I personally loved. And she was also in a movie called The Witch, and she's one to keep your eye on. So remember that name, Anya Taylor-Joy, because I think that we're going to see her in a lot of stuff. She's definitely up and coming. The therapist in this movie was played by Betty Buckley, and she does a good job as well. And then there were 2 girls that were abducted along with Anya Taylor-Joy, and their performances aren't terrible. They're not great, but they aren't terrible. So the acting on the whole in this movie is actually pretty good, and it does really help to make this movie enjoyable. Now the story in this movie is okay to me. I mean, I think it's well done. M. Night Shyamalan, to me, always writes a story that's well done. Part of the reasons I'm saying this story is okay is there were some things in here that I thought could have been done a little bit better to help us appreciate the story a little bit more. We'll talk about those in a second. But I'm also saying the story is okay because when this thing starts to roll out, this film becomes less interesting to me. Like the concept or the idea behind this film becomes less interesting to me. But that's a personal preference. I kind of feel like with this movie, you're going to have one of 2 people with this movie. You're going to have the guy or the girl who loves this, thinks it's just the most genius thing that they've seen for a long while, and they're going to love it. Or you're going to have the person that's going to be like, I don't know what's going on here. This is just very strange. And that kind of happens with some of Shyamalan's movies. He sometimes tells a story in such a way that's not very accessible to a lot of people, and people are frustrated with it and they don't enjoy the movie, or he tells a story that's accessible enough where people love it, i.e. The Sixth Sense, Signs, or Unbreakable. So you kind of get both with him. And I kind of feel like with this movie, people are going to either hate it or they're going to love it. I don't think that this is a movie for everybody, but I do think that the movie is well told in terms of the story. It's just whether or not you will appreciate the concept that you're watching is something that might be a little bit problematic for you. Now, visually and the way this thing is directed is great. I mean, it's in classic Shyamalan style. It's suspenseful. It's well crafted in terms of visually and how you look at it. So I think from that aspect, you will really enjoy this film as well. And the interesting part when I talk about stuff like this is most people don't notice that when they watch a film. You just notice whether you like it or not. But the visual breakdown is something that most people are not consciously cycling through in their head. So I say all that to say that I do think that this film visually fits in with the other elements of the film, like the acting and the storytelling, to create a cohesively enjoyable experience. So there were some problems with this film. So let's talk about those real quickly. Number 1 was the flashbacks. So there are some flashbacks in this film that are important because they help make sense of something that happens at the end of this film. But the way that those flashbacks were done was not very good, in the sense that, this is going to sound odd coming from me, but they actually relied a lot on just visual storytelling in the flashbacks because the dialogue in the flashbacks were very sparse. But it didn't work as well, and I know it sounds strange coming from me because you always hear me talk about the importance of visual storytelling when watching a movie because it's so important. Those visuals help to tell the story. But here we actually needed more dialogue to really fortify the understanding of what we saw at the end of the movie. Even though I think that you'll get it, you guys are smart people, but it would have been nice if those flashbacks were a little bit more informative. There also is a little bit of lack of character development for 2 of the girls that are abducted, and honestly I'm not really sure how they would have solved this, because the way the story is kind of set up, it would have been very difficult to give a backstory for those 2 girls and not kind of interfere with the tone and the flow of this movie. But I wish some way that we could have learned a little bit more about them so we cared a little bit more about them in this movie. And then finally, I was a little confused about the relationship between Betty Buckley's character, the therapist, and James McAvoy in terms of what actually she was trying to accomplish with him. That was a little bit confusing for me as well. So those are my problems with this film, but I do think that on the film, if this is something that you were thinking about going to see, then guys, go check this out, because again, I feel like this is something that you kind of need to see to know if you will appreciate. I think this movie is enjoyable enough. If I had to give it a grade, I would give it a C, but at the same time, I would tell you to go check it out and see what you think, because this is one of those movies where I feel comfortable enough with you doing that and you kind of deciding whether or not this is something that's enjoyable for you. Unlike Triple X, I would tell you, no, do not go see that movie, please. But this is what I think you got to kind of check out on your own. So guys, those are my thoughts on Split. Guys, please make sure that if you like this, that you subscribe. You're going to see a little thing like this, a little logo of me looking like this. If it's not popped up on the screen, it will, and it's going to be in a circle. You can click that to subscribe, or somewhere on the bottom along the line you'll see white text that says subscribe here. You can also click that to subscribe. Guys, please make sure that you comment. Let me know what you thought about this movie. If you saw it, did you love it, did you hate it? Let me know your thoughts on it. Give it a like if you liked it, and please feel free to share it, guys. And with that, I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.